Do you know about the tragic incident of EgyptAir Flight 804? It was a day forever etched in the annals of aviation history, the 19th of May, 2016. A day that began like any other, but ended in a tragedy that claimed the lives of all 66 souls on board. The aircraft in question was an Airbus A320, a popular choice among airlines for its efficiency and reliability. It was on a routine flight from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, France, to Cairo International Airport in Egypt. On board were 56 passengers, 7 crew members, and 3 security personnel, each with their own stories, their own hopes, and their own dreams. But as the plane cruised over the Mediterranean Sea, something went horribly wrong. There was no distress call from the cockpit, no panicked voices over the airwaves, no indication of the calamity that was about to unfold. Instead, what we have are cryptic signals that hinted at smoke filling the aircraft. Imagine the confusion, the fear, the uncertainty as the smoke started to fill the cabin. And then, just like that, EgyptAir Flight 804 disappeared from the radar. The aircraft, once a symbol of human achievement and the promise of adventure, was now a ghost, its fate unknown, its whereabouts a mystery. In the control rooms, the screens went dark. In the homes of the families, the phone lines stayed silent. The world held its breath, praying for a miracle, hoping against hope that the blip on the screen would reappear. But it never did. The plane's disappearance from the radar marked the start of a complex and tragic event. A mystery that would take years to unravel, with twists and turns that would confound even the most seasoned investigators. This was the fateful flight of EgyptAir Flight 804. The aircraft plunged into the Mediterranean Sea on the 19th of May 2016. This was a day that would be etched in the annals of aviation history as one of its darkest hours. EgyptAir Flight 804, an Airbus A320, was on its routine journey from Paris to Cairo when it met with a catastrophic end. Just as the first rays of dawn were breaking, the aircraft vanished from radar screens. No distress call was made, no hint of the impending disaster. But signals emanating from the aircraft painted a chilling picture. Smoke was detected in the aircraft before it disappeared. The Mediterranean, usually a cradle of ancient civilizations and a hub of maritime activity, turned into a graveyard for the ill-fated aircraft. The crash site lay somewhere in the sea north of Alexandria. A frantic search operation was launched to locate the aircraft and any possible survivors. Sadly, all that was found was debris. Fragments of the aircraft scattered over the vast expanse of the sea. Amidst this wreckage, the flight recorders were recovered. These black boxes, as they're often called, hold vital clues to the events that led to the crash. But the grim reality was becoming increasingly clear. The aircraft had crashed, and there were no survivors. On board were 66 souls, men, women, and children, each with their own stories, their own dreams, all extinguished in a single tragic moment. It was a loss that was felt across nations, across continents. The world mourned for the victims, their families, and the crew of EgyptAir Flight 804. This was not just a disaster, it was a mystery that needed solving. Questions began to swirl around the incident. What caused the crash? Was it a technical fault or was there foul play involved? The flight recorders held the answers, but unraveling the truth was going to be a daunting task. A tragic crash that left no survivors, sparking a multitude of investigations. Initial investigations suggested a terrifying possibility: terrorism. In the immediate aftermath of the EgyptAir Flight 804 crash, investigators were faced with a perplexing puzzle. The Airbus A320, a reliable workhorse of the skies, had plummeted into the Mediterranean Sea without issuing a distress call. As they began to pick apart the pieces of the mystery, signals indicating smoke in the aircraft pointed them towards an alarming theory: a fire in the cockpit. With the wreckage and both flight recorders recovered from the depths north of Alexandria, the investigators' work truly began. The black boxes held the key to understanding the aircraft's final moments. The data revealed an unsettling sequence of events. Smoke alarms had been triggered, suggesting an outbreak of fire on board. But where had the fire originated? And more importantly, why? The smoke signals led some to speculate on a possible cockpit fire. This theory was supported by the disturbing absence of a distress call. In a fire scenario, the crew's priority would have been to combat the flames, possibly explaining why no distress signal was sent. Yet the circumstances of the crash also led to a darker hypothesis. Could this have been an act of terrorism? In a world still reeling from recent acts of aviation-related terrorism, it wasn't entirely out of the question. The sudden loss of contact, the lack of a distress call, and the aircraft's abrupt descent all painted a chilling picture. However, establishing terrorism as a cause required evidence, and at this stage of the investigation, none was forthcoming. The black boxes didn't immediately reveal any signs of an explosion, and no group came forward to claim responsibility. But as the investigators were soon to discover, the truth can be as elusive as it is shocking. Yet, as is often the case in such incidents, the initial findings were soon to be questioned. The puzzle of EgyptAir Flight 804 was far from solved, and the twists and turns of the investigation were just beginning. As the investigations progressed, a chilling revelation came to light. 3 years after the tragic incident in 2019, a report surfaced that sent ripples through the aviation world. It suggested that the Airbus A320, the aircraft carrying EgyptAir Flight 804, was not airworthy at the time of the flight. Yes, you heard it right. The plane that carried 66 people on that fateful day was not fit to fly. This finding raised a plethora of questions. What led to this oversight? How did an aircraft, deemed unfit for flight, manage to take off in the first place? Were there lapses in the inspection protocols, or was it a case of deliberate negligence? These questions opened a Pandora's box, casting a shadow of doubt over the stringent safety protocols that the aviation industry prides itself on. The implications of this revelation were far-reaching. It put the spotlight back on the aviation authorities and the airline. It demanded answers and accountability. It also meant revisiting the initial theories and assumptions about the cause of the crash. Was it really a fire in the cockpit? Or was it a mechanical failure, or worse, a combination of both? This revelation also impacted the ongoing investigations. The focus shifted from the cockpit fire and the potential human errors to the mechanical aspects of the aircraft. The investigators had to dig deeper, scrutinize every piece of evidence, every bit of data from the flight recorders with a renewed perspective. The families of the victims, who were already grappling with the loss of their loved ones, were now faced with a harsh reality. The thought that the crash could have been prevented had the aircraft been deemed unfit for flight was a bitter pill to swallow. In the world of aviation, safety is paramount. Every flight, every journey is a testament to the relentless efforts of countless individuals working behind the scenes to ensure a safe journey. But the revelation about EgyptAir Flight 804 served as a grim reminder that even in the most controlled environments, things can go awry. This revelation added another layer of complexity to an already baffling incident. In 2022, a new theory emerged, suggesting a fire likely started due to a pilot smoking a cigarette. A startling revelation that shifted the narrative of the EgyptAir Flight 804 investigation. This theory, as alarming as it is, points to a simple human action having disastrous consequences. Imagine a lit cigarette left unattended in the cockpit, a place filled with numerous electronic equipment and systems. It's not hard to see how a small ember could potentially ignite a catastrophic fire. It's a chilling thought, one that emphasizes the importance of adherence to safety regulations in the aviation industry. This theory, however, is not without its critics. Some argue that the pilots were experienced professionals who knew the risks of smoking in the cockpit. Others point out the lack of concrete evidence linking the fire to a cigarette. Despite these criticisms, the theory has forced investigators to reconsider their initial assumptions about the crash. But what does this mean for the investigation going forward? Well, it adds another layer of complexity. The focus shifts from the aircraft's airworthiness to the actions of the crew. It raises questions about the enforcement of safety regulations and the potential for human error in such a high-stakes environment. Moreover, it brings attention to the need for stricter regulations and more rigorous checks in the aviation industry. It underscores the importance of not overlooking seemingly minor infractions, as they can have far-reaching, devastating effects. One thing is clear: this theory, if proven true, would be a stark reminder of the consequences of negligence. It would serve as a wake-up call for airlines worldwide to ensure the strictest adherence to safety regulations. In the end, the truth about what happened on that fateful flight remains elusive. The crash of EgyptAir Flight 804 is a complex puzzle with many missing pieces. The theory of the cigarette-induced fire is just one piece of that puzzle. The crash of EgyptAir Flight 804 remains a tragic event with complex findings and ongoing investigations. And while we may not have all the answers yet, each new finding brings us one step closer to understanding this tragic event.